All right, friends, welcome back to another episode of the Strong Life Podcast. We got Coach Tony Villani. He is co-owner, co-founder of XPE Sports. I've been following Tony not that long, but came across your information either on social. I think I came across it on Twitter. People were saying, man, XPE is dominating at the combine. So I started
That's funny.
Googling names. Your name come up. I guess your partner is Matt Gates.
Mm-hmm.
His name
Matt
came up.
Gates
And
crushes the
then,
combine.
yeah, and I came across some old videos. You know, I don't like to just look at what's right in front of me. So I think some videos of you guys might be pre-2010, maybe 2010
Oh yeah.
on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So what I like, Tony, is I could tell, dude, you are on the floor coaching because the videos show you coaching youth. I see you coaching NFL guys. I see you in the gym. I see you on grass fields at the park. So
Yeah.
when I see that stuff, I'm like, all right, we got a coach. We got somebody who's like immersed in
I appreciate
coaching.
you recognizing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's hard. And I think any of the coaches that are in, I don't know if you're in your 30s or 40s, but I'm 46. When I see coaches, they don't last that long. I know coaches who started with me in early 2000s. They said, F this, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I'm 48.
Yeah,
So
I'm right behind you.
so now I'm demo king. I used to train with them
I saw that.
as many sessions as they wanted. I mean, I'd do 3 outside sessions with a group of college kids, pro athletes, and high school kids, and I'd do all the running with them. But then I've definitely slowed down the demo man.
It's
And so people are always like, "You're still quick, you're still fast." I'm like, just in little 5-yard pieces. So
it was impressive. I saw you demonstrating with a combine group. And
yeah,
no, I think they may have been NFL guys. I don't think they were prepping for combine. And then
yeah,
I see you doing the drills with them. And not only that, you're in Florida and on a cool
yeah,
day, it's like 88.
yeah. It's beautiful down here. We
So
don't even know what winter is.
I
So
know it's great, dude. So when I reached out to you, I was telling you we head down your area quite a bit for tennis in the Boca
yeah,
area, which you're in Delray Beach.
I was in Delray Beach from 2009 till about 2018. Post COVID, we shut down our Delray Beach Boca Raton location.
Okay.
The building, we just didn't want to reopen it. And Matt Gates had started up his brand of XPE in Fort Lauderdale, just 15 minutes away, 2 years before that. And I just decided I'm at a time in my life where I wanted to work with someone great.
Yes.
And he was putting out phenomenal combine numbers, as I think I still was, but we were the same brand and working together, but 2 separate facilities.
All
So
right.
2 years ago, I moved to didn't move to Fort Lauderdale. Our business moved to Fort Lauderdale, and me and Matt have been working together, which I think is going to elongate both of our careers.
Yeah. So let's back that up a little bit because I tried doing a bit of research to see what was your background before you went into the private sector. And I think I heard you were in Georgia, maybe?
Yeah, so it started, I mean, I got a master's. I went to Clemson University, got a master's degree from George Washington University after that, and did some work with the Washington Capitals.
Excuse me.
Interning with the Washington Capitals. And then from there, I went to Orlando, and I worked with the Orlando Magic right under the head strength and conditioning coach, and was just a regular personal trainer trying to make, my cut of 20 to, half of 60, $70 for personal training. And then after that, I got a job for about half of what I was making being a personal trainer as director of sports performance for Chris Carter's FAST program from 99 to 2002. And
what
that
program was that again, Tony?
It's called Chris Carter's, the Hall of Fame receiver, Chris Carter. He had something called FAST program. 1999 to 2002, I worked for them. That was when Chris Carter, Randy Moss, it was Chris Carter's little gym. It was a tiny place, little 1,500 square foot indoors. And it was a Frapier facility, if people remember Frapier. We used to jump on high-speed treadmills, do dot drills, do a bunch of leg press jumping and hip flexor work, and then we'd go outside a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I did that for 3 years and learned a lot from a great trainer who was kind of like my mentor, Bill Welly, who's still in the business up in Minnesota.
Okay.
But then I left, and in 2002, I created XPE. I moved to Atlanta, And my guys up there that bought in like right away, luckily, were Jamal Lewis, Keo Spikes, Hines Ward, Osi Minoria, Dorsey Levens, and we had, a group of 20 to 25 off-season guys in it. But it was funny. I had to go through the whole flip. Like from 2002, I was trying to convince guys of, what's kind of considered the feed the cats approach now of,
Yes,
you're in the NFL, you're strong enough, let's get fast. Like your leg training with me is going to be Vertimax jumping, single leg dumbbell work, sleds, and hamstrings, and we're going to run fast. And it worked because these guys were already so big and strong, and they were always getting overtrained everywhere they worked. So it worked with this whole group of guys, but everybody was saying, oh, he's just out there running around with guys, getting them in shape. He doesn't know how to do combine training. So then in 2008, 2006, we had our first round pick, Jason Allen. He murdered the combine. And 2008, we had 3 top 15 picks that were all projected to go 3rd round. And then it's just this business. Kind of went like a yo-yo. Then I got known as, oh, he's just a speed guy and doesn't know how to train off-season guys, So then I moved to Florida in 2010 and kind of reinvented my career because I had to start all over because of a business dispute of who owned my company that I started, because business is never easy.
Yep.
And I just restarted down in South Florida, used the gym and a field all over again. And luckily I met Anquan Bolden, and my first combine class was luckily my highest quality class ever. It was 5 first-round picks. It was Eric Berry, and Kareem Jackson was still with me, and Java Best. Jacoby Ford was the fastest receiver ever that year. And I kind of, my first year down in Florida, being in a gym and using a field, I had 5 first-round picks out of 12, and it revamped my combine business, and then I just grew it down there.
What was the new, when you had to start over your business, what did your new gym look like? What was the size of it? What did you get?
It was a fitness gym. It was the biggest fitness gym in South Florida that I was at in Delray. We ran a 4-yard wide, 30-yard long piece of old school AstroTurf carpet down the middle of it between the cardio and weights areas. And in the back, I had 3 wood weight treadmills that normally didn't work. One was set up on a hill that we could free run on. One was set up flat that we could drive on. One was finally never broken that we could run on while it was moving. And we had a Vertimax back there and a leg press MVP. And that was our facility. And we used to pull sleds in there and almost hit old ladies trying to walk to the cardio area. It was absolutely crazy and amazing. And we recruited combine guys that loved like Florida and just looking at the results. And we were literally working out in level 5 fitness. I loved it. And it was just, the pros loved it. And we literally would go out, we'd work out there in the morning. We'd go to the field some days. And our meal prep was at Duffy's, the sports bar that gave me 40% off if I brought my guys in at 2 p.m. And we just had a family. We'd work out in the morning, we'd drink some shakes, we'd go get a massage on the beach. We didn't have a medical program. We'd set up massage and yoga on the beach, go eat at Duffy's at 2 p.m., go back in the gym at 5, regular people. And from 2010, 11, 12, and 13, that was my facility, just a regular gym, a little bit of equipment in it, and using a field. And we got great results. It's just, I don't think the facility matters as much as everybody puts into at first in their business. I made that mistake. I think everybody does, but it really doesn't matter.
Well, when you mention late 90s and early 2000s, I started in 02. So it's funny because you recall it was the functional training boom. So if you weren't on a stability ball, BOSU ball, 1-leg trainer, you were quote unquote incorrect. And you know what? A lot of people called me an idiot, because we were, before I had a sled, I got a front end tractor tires for sleds. And people thought, and it was so much of like us against them and this and that.
But it keeps going back to just the same force application. Like, you can't get out of that. I always tell people the number one bucket you have to figure out, however you do it with whatever equipment you have, whatever level athlete you have, whatever, is turn strength into power. That's it. Like, that is number one bucket.
It's okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. You want to say hello real quick? Okay,
Hi.
Sorry about that.
No, that's great.
She's used to seeing me on Zoom calls all the time. She comes and says, "What, honey? Real quick, huh?" Can I watch something with Nick on them? Yes, go ahead. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Don't. That's okay.
I'm sorry about that. You cut that out.
No,
my little buddy.
When you asked me like how long I'm doing the podcast for, hi. My kids are now 15 and 13, but when they were, I started this 10 years ago. One time I was doing a podcast, my kids were shooting me with Nerf guns.
My daughter she's been used to me on Zoom calls like the last 6 months.
Yeah.
So sometimes she'll sit on my lap and say hello. She's not like every time like, this was only like my third or fourth podcast and I love it. But I'm like,
that's funny. Yeah. Another time my daughter pulled her tooth out while I was doing a webinar. She had like blood on her hands. It was funny. So, let's talk about.
Yeah. So back to the strength to power bucket. Like
strength to power.
Everybody thinks because I'm so pro speed that I don't like strength to power. And I'm like, it's come full circle, from dancing around on Bosu balls and balancing to, no, put your force in the ground, put your foot in the ground. Like, so it's come back. I almost say the strength to power is always going to come back to not old school overtraining, but you are never going to replace that bucket. Never. Like it is the number one bucket in my mind, So
it's interesting is like if somebody sees one or two or whatever, 5 videos from somebody, they automatically say you're quote unquote that guy. They don't put things into context and say, well, to get there, he's doing, there's only so much we're showing. And then there's a lot of behind the scenes work. And so
I actually talked to Sean McVay about that. I trained.
Who's that? Give me some context because I'm not a big,
Sean McVay is the head coach of the LA Rams. The head, like boy genius, just youngest NFL coach in history, youngest coach of the year in history, youngest but I trained him when he was in college in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So when he got the job with the Rams, like they got a Shredmill and he was like into the new things. And I finally picked his brain and like, this is the way I explain it. Like when he does a play that is a trick play that looks like it's a score and it was a genius play call, he has set that up not only plays before that game, but he set it up with coaches looking at tapes of his games for 3 weeks. Like he has set up that one play way before you ever thought he made that play.
He's a chess master.
Yeah, and it's the same as sports training when you meet a good guy. You can't look at a drill and then be like, I'm going to use that drill. Mm-hmm. Like you have to have your own system where that drill fits in or know what he did before or after. And I like to equate. Yeah, I equate it to like Joey G is a great guy out there now from FAU. I love his stuff. And I'm not mad at him for it because I love it because he posts all his stuff. But like every high school trainer out there, I'm going to start doing that drill. I'm like, whoa. Like a lot went in before Joey posted that cool looking drill, and you've got to figure out, I always call it the when, what, where, why, and how of a drill. Like you've got to have that answer. Now, strength and power is always like the foundation of everything you're going to do, which is why you can't remove that bucket. People look at me as a speed guy or now speed guy transferring to agility or whatever. Like, no. Like I'm a strength power guy. And then I'm a speed at all costs until you get fast enough. And then I'm like, let's improve your performance of how to win, The
context to me is everything. So some people, I would say, if I interpret this correctly from you, Tony, when I look at something you're doing or another coach, I say, how can I fit that properly in, not just in the gym, but with this kid at this stage of his development versus let me just copy that. Let me copy what Joey's doing at Florida Atlantic. Those are Division I high level guys. So the way I try to explain it to our athletes, I've got a private facility and I'm also at a high school. As I say, I might repost something that like the guys at West Point are doing. They see them doing cleans and jumps and squats. And
what's that guy's name at West Point? He's amazing. What's his name?
Yeah. Well, man.
God, he's good.
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Brandon, who just left to I think he just left to Purdue.
I always watch the Army stuff, and I'm like, look
Yeah.
at this stuff. This is awesome. Yeah.
And then you have crap. I'm like drawing a blank. Blair Vaughn, head guy, and the other guy, Brandon, he was with them, and I think he just went to Purdue. He just left. Those guys are impressive.
The strength and conditioning world has totally been flipped on its head the past 3 to 5 years.
I agree.
I hope more than 5 years ago, but now it's being seen in the past 3 to 4 years, or 2 to 3 years, and I love it. It's making people think, and it's making people. But you still can't, like you said, you can't get out of squat, deadlift, and bench. You still got to develop that.
They get better at them.
Yeah.
It's Jim Kiertzy over in Kennesaw. He said, we do simple things savagely well. So
I love that.
Yeah. And then I heard a guy, he was Marine Recon, which is super elite special forces. And he was it reminded me of a parallel to strength and conditioning, kind of what you said. He goes, I don't need fancy guns or fancy weapons to get my job done. Brilliance with the basics. And what he was saying is, I need like 1 or 2 different guns and I could go out on a mission and get it done. And you're saying, I don't need this crazy ass gym. And I've seen some gyms where I'm looking at it, I'm like, damn, who did you partner with? How much money are you in debt? You know,
all of us do that. I think I do it even when I walk into a restaurant, like I would go into a restaurant and, you're with friends that never own their own business. They're like, look at this restaurant. They must be banking it. I'm like, oh, they're not banking it. They owe a bank note. They have an investor. They got a business part. Like, and it's the same thing in those big crazy gyms. And I advise a lot of trainers. I'm like, look, I can help you get a good business, but your most economical model is going to be a 2,000 to 4,000 square foot space, and being able to get outside if you can. Like, you can't outrun that model. We can talk about business forever, but it's just you can't outrun that model. So,
what's when you did this switch you mentioned earlier, where you were in a business partnership, you left, and so then you and Matt Gates partnered up. So give us a little bit of that story about exiting a business and then seeking a partner, because I also feel maybe as we've gotten older, it's, in your early years, you're doing everything alone. I equate it to being like Rambo, First Blood. Yeah. You're fighting everybody alone. But then eventually you're like, dude,
you against the world. Yeah.
Yeah. You need a team or you will exhaust yourself. And I also 100%. Think, Tony, you've got a lot of energy. I have a lot of energy. A lot of coaches can't maintain that. They got it for like 2 to 3 years. Then they're just crushed. But you're so fired up about this. So maybe take us a little bit through like the history of leaving a business, partnering with Matt, and bringing together, I guess, 2 training philosophies to, what I heard and saw about you guys was you guys are dominating the combine, but then I see the videos of you guys training youth and having a real good handle of training everyone, not just, as you said, people think you're a combine guy.
I'm going to get through the history of all the business mistakes for Matt Gates and why the Matt, and hopefully less than a minute, and then why the Matt Gates things worked out so well. But left Chris Carter's fast program, started my own business, had a little gym in Georgia, did it all by myself, got a big name. Then I was a dummy and bought out Velocity Sports Performance's 3 facilities in Atlanta. Dummy. Took over their note, changed them as XPEs, rebranded it, got them to break even point because that big model doesn't work. The former business owners came back in and made me a partner because they knew I was just still doing it alone. Partnered up back with them. They started running it with the big box model. We started going out of business again. I said, I'm out. So I had to basically leave the business I started in Atlanta and go to Florida, which was fine. So I had to restart in Florida all over again. As we talked about, went to a gym.
Why did you have to go to Florida, being that you were
because I was still basically a partner of a business that I wanted to leave. They fired me even though I owned it. Just a bunch of legal disputes. It was just easier just to say, I'll take my name with me in XPE. You keep the gym. I'm done. So basically 10 years into XPE, I had to restart it over in South Florida. So started over. basically nothing in my pocket. All my money went to legal fees up there to get out of my deal of a company I started. You know, it happens. So rebuilt it in Florida, and I kept leveraging my name in Florida to get better facility situations, but never got in debt by having a better facility. Okay. And Matt Gates came along and he exited Speed at that time with Brandon Marshall, which is now House of Athletes. And Matt said, hey, we'd always been competitors. And he said, I want to go into business on my own. And, you know, you'd be the only person I'd want to partner with somehow. Do you have anything? I'm like, well, I got this 10,000 square foot facility in Boca that's like I barely pay rent for. Like, I can't leave this. But there's a facility in Fort Lauderdale, an Extreme Action Park, which is Dave and Buster's on steroids, and they have 12,000 square feet, and they want to do something with me. So I kind of was in the middleman of putting Matt Gates in there. And that was 2016. So 17 and 18, we worked separately, but under the same brand. And maybe my business got a little kickback, which is fine. He owned XP Sports Fort Lauderdale. COVID hit. I didn't want to reopen Boca. I was in a different point in my life. So the past 3 years, I partnered up with Matt. And now me and Matt are basically business partners of that Fort Lauderdale facility. And his combine results are phenomenal, or have been. And, you know, this last year was just absolutely crazy. And we've gotten great results before. And people always said, it wasn't really an argument. They always, I mean, not bragging. They said, you're going to go to XP, you're going to run fast. And people would say, well, all they do is speed. And they would say, no, that's just the name of the game for the combine. That's what we have to do. Or they would always say, well, they always get fast guys. And we'd say, no, our average decrease in 40 time is anywhere between 0.22 to 0.28, just like y'all all market. On the low end, it's 1.5 tenths. On the high end, it's 3.5 tenths. But our 80% of our guys improve between that 0.22 to 0.28. So if you guys truly get that improvement, we're actually getting it. That's what makes our guys fast. But this year, when we pre-time people, me and Matt together, we're like, oh no. Uh-oh. If we get our average improvement with this group, it's going to be unbelievable. And we got our average improvement this year with some fast guys. And that's what made, I mean, it was the fastest. We only had, what's crazy is I love, like Exos has 150 guys at the combine run. We had 12.
Wow.
And we had the fastest receiver, the fastest running back, the fastest tight end, the 2 fastest DBs ever, and the second fastest safety. We still had Kyrie Elam go 4.3. We still had another safety go low 4.4. We still had another a fast linebacker who wasn't one. But so it was like 10 out of like 7 of our 12 were number 1 or number 2 of their event. So what was crazy is Matt Gates and I knew that could happen. But with the error of training at Indy, human error of when whoever's starting the laser, just guys not feeling right that day, we just didn't know it would happen, and it happened, and it was crazy. And if you ask Matt Gates, and not selling the treadmill, like, what made your results with XPE these past 4 years so much better than when you were at FitSpeed? And at FitSpeed, they were on curved treadmills and high-speed treadmills with Matt Gates' weight program. Matt Gates' strength to power training is phenomenal. All he's done is add in the treadmill training. And he'll tell you, and like, I think people think that he's saying that because he's my business partner. It's like the only different change of his speed training in the past 4 years is the treadmill. And combined with us, we've had the fastest cornerback and safety 4 of the last 5 years. I mean, both, like cornerback and safety, the past 4 of the last 5 years. And it's truly so simple. Me and him have it dialed in. It is so simple. We could get those speed gains with these guys, training them 2 days a week for 2 hours a day, if we trusted them not to mess themselves up on the other days. But other days, we got to practice some shuttle and 3-cone and not getting too tired. Other days, we got to do some upper body work so they feel good about their chest and biceps and can bench a lot, which doesn't matter that much at this test. Other days, we got to do a good skill session on Fridays where we bring all our NFL players and NFL coaches. So all these combine guys think they're doing the skill work when all they're doing is 5 drills at Indy. But we train Monday and Thursday with our combine guys. That's it. That's our training. We tell them all.
Effective dose.
We say, get ready for Mondays, Thursdays. Everything we're doing Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays is not to mess up your Monday, Thursday.
So let me ask you this question, Tony, because you're mentioning the Shredmill. So I want to get into that. And then looking at some stuff you've posted on Twitter, you mentioned, I'm trying to say it, I don't mess this up. Like, it's not the if they're like too fast linearly, it messes up their ability to change direction. So that
I think so, but people would argue with me, and I understand their argument. So that's why we're doing a good clinic and with Simply Faster May 21st in Florida.
Yep, I saw that. Yeah, I mean, that
because,
looks amazing.
Like some of the people that people think I argue with, like Tony Holler. I do not argue with Tony Holler. People think I argue. He's brilliant, and his impact to the industry of Feed the Cats is amazing. But we talk about stuff. So that's what that clinic's all about. But I do think I started noticing 5 years ago with our combine guys that we were training speed so effectively and getting them so fast. Whenever we had to do skill work or get them to do a shuttle or 3-cone, we had to tell them, shut off your speed.
Why were they essentially getting, were you using the Shredmill 5 years ago? And when did the Shredmill?
Yeah, the Shredmill's been 8 years.
And who created it? You did?
I did with a mechanical engineer was in that gym back in 2012. And I had one woodway set up a hill that didn't work.
Was it the curve?
No, it was just a regular woodway, but you could put it up the hill and unplug it, and it would turn into a flywheel.
Okay.
So I had three woodway treadmills set up as we run. So the first one was flat, no hill, and you could push it as hard as you can, like you were on a sled, but you couldn't see your speeds and you couldn't adjust the resistance. So I liked it because it did work on the dry phase, and you were probably pushing it. The belt was probably only moving 12, 13 miles an hour. I mean, it felt like your dry phase. And then I had the next hill set up at about 20% and unplugged it. And then you could get on that and you could start striding out, and it would pick up speed for you until you couldn't pick up speed anymore. That was probably allowing you to get to 16, 17 miles an hour, And then I had the next woodway set up at 15% and like 18 miles an hour maintained. And you had to jump on that and maintain. So I kind of had it set up as drive, lengthen out your stride, maintain your stride. Okay? And we coupled that together with sled pulls if you were weaker on acceleration. We coupled that together. You made, like, if the Shredmills were set up, drive, open stride, drive number 1, open stride number 2, maintain your speed number 3. We sequenced like how many sets you did based on your weakness of your 40. Okay? And this brilliant guy was like some engineer, little cuckoo guy was watching me like, what are you doing? Why are you unplugged on these? Why is this one moving? And I told him, he's like, could you create one? I'm like, yeah, I want to create one. I want to be able to add resistance to it. I want to be able to make the hill movable easier. I don't want to have it unplugged. I want to see what speed I'm going. I want all that. So we developed it. And that's when the curved treadmill started coming out. But I was like, I understand that, but like, it literally tells you to lean forward, reach your foot forward, hit the downhill portion until it speeds up. I'm like, everyone knows you're promoting the braking effect to speed up this belt. Like, why in the world are we doing that? So that's when, but people don't understand, to get a manual belt to move, this doesn't have electricity, you have to strike a downhill portion of the belt. So that's why the curve is, because when you strike the downhill portion of the curve, it starts speeding up the belt. Now, eventually your foot comes underneath you and you're in a correct, like, top end mechanics, but it doesn't do anything for teaching you how to accelerate into that top speed. So the 40-yard dash is all about acceleration into top speed. So that's when I patented a continuous height adjustment on the manual treadmill, and everybody's infringed on that curve. Luckily, no one's infringed on the continuous height adjustment on a manual treadmill yet.
So this is my, transparency. This is where I'm really like trying to delve into speed, but not just for field athletes, meaning we're talking about the combine here. And then selfishly, I have a son who's plays baseball and basketball, but I always want to like apply speed to develop leg power for baseball, for tennis, but which requires a lot of agility. But I'm going to ask a question and then I want to talk about that. Sometimes I see your athletes on the Shredmill holding it. Other times I see them moving arms. Why each?
So they're holding it when they're working on the dry phase, which is mostly leg specific. How much power can you generate? And what you can't notice is there's a lot of resistance on that belt. So they are overcoming like a lot of force to be able to get that belt to move 12 to 14.
So you have to hold it when you're doing
You have to hold. Now, we do have bands behind their back that we sometimes put if we want the arm drive of the dry phase. But honestly, we've gotten such good results on just saying, learn how to run with power out of your legs and then take it to the ground and let your arms and legs sync up together. Like, we've just gotten good results of that. Now, when they run up a hill on the Shredmill, now they're working on form and they're working on that cycle. And that's when, like, it's not as much leg power. It's how your arms and legs are syncing together and maintaining that stride line. So we do both of them.
I saw there was a guy on Twitter when we exchanged some conversation on Twitter. He has 2 different treadmills in his garage.
Yeah, Josh McClure. He has one of our smaller versions that we're trying to remake again for high schools.
Oh, okay.
And we put like double level of resistance on there, and that thing gets hard. And then he has a bigger, faster one. And so, like, the big fast ones, like, we got lucky because people like Les Bellman and other people are coming out with like, what loads should you do resisted running at, right? And most of them are like 50% of your max velocity is heavy, 75% is medium, and 90 to 100% is like free running, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like all acceleration profiling. You should be between 50 to 90% of your max be on resisted running. Like, anything heavier, from what they're finding, it's not my, like, maybe like promoting too slow of leg movement, right? I didn't know when I created the Shredmill, our guys work between 12 and 13 miles an hour on the heaviest load and can get that belt moving to 20 to 21 miles an hour. And that's for our 22 to 23 mile an hour athletes. So luckily, they're always working in that like 60 to 95% load of their max speed.
But what about like guys like, did you have linemen in your combine this year?
Yeah, so like we only had one.
Yeah, like,
so honestly, the linemen would honestly benefit, I think, more from a high motorized treadmill or track mechanics than the skill guys, because the linemen normally will have a better 10, right, per body weight. And then when they stand up and start trying to pick up speed from sprint mechanics, their speed just dies because of their body weight.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
300 plus pounds.
Yeah, so we normally do a lot more sprint technique and back end work with our big guys rather than front end work.
What's back end work mean? What does that
mean? Back end work is, I call back end work in a 40, anything from 15 to 18 yards to 40 yards. Oh, like when your body's almost all the way up, you still got to hit the go button.
What about using your Shredmill? Like, I was kind of like selfishly asking, I train, we have a lot of wrestlers, baseball, lacrosse, but I'm trying to think of like using the Shredmill for athletes who aren't field athletes, or maybe they're on a field, but they're never really running, a distance. And so, but I want to use it for leg power. So who are you using the Shredmill for? That's not a, let's say, football player.
So we use it on our back. We use it on our back. We use it on every field sport. Mm-hmm. But then we change it from, so there's these gear profiles you can do to figure out what load you need to work on acceleration, hill profiles that you do to figure out how you work on form. And so there's like, and then there's 40-yard dash profiles to see where are you lacking at, whether it's dry phase with your legs, dry phase with your leg or arms.
The profile is on the Shredmill. There's like a computer.
So now the Shredmill has an app that we've created where it shows your force velocity curve of every run. And it actually counts your steps. And me, Jacoby Ford, and Mark Ingram are just doing 30-yard flies on the ground and getting our max speed. And then we set the Shredmill to 30 yards, and we did 30-yard flies on the Shredmill. And it was the exact same steps.
I wonder how.
I was like, but that's just for 40. That's like absolute speed. But for like court sports, we hammer home what we call game speed.
Yes, you talk about that.
And this is where I argue with track guys, and I'm not arguing. I'm like, I've got a football player. Mm-hmm. He's going to play track, run track next season or in the spring. Cool. focus on max speed. Like focus on it all dang day because he's running 100 meters. He's got to maintain that max speed. Okay. But now I got a football player. He's going to train basketball. Okay. Switch that up. Let's work on starting, stopping, heavy acceleration, and jumping. So game speed is not unlimited acceleration into your top speed, because we call like unlimited acceleration at top speed is like a drag race. Gear 1, hit the gas. Gear 2, gear 3, gear 4, gear 5, and you're trying to get to peak speed at each gear and not staying it too long and down and shift at the exact right time. Those are the people who win those track races or a drag race. They not only have the best car, they shift gears at the right time, right? But on a field of play or a court, it's like, this is where I get in trouble with track guys. I don't want any sprint mechanics, because by the time I feel sprint mechanics, I'm flying on the other side of the court. So
you've changed directions. You're moving somewhere else.
And we even do it with our football players where we're like, hey, whenever you decide to start the run, you don't get to explode out of the block and explode your body horizontally and hit another explosion step. Like a great 40 start is exploding out and putting that foot in the ground to explode again. It's like a two-step punch. But on the field or court, it's like, just fine, just do you explode? And sometimes you don't explode, but you get one chance to explode. So we call that game speed one. Lucky if you get one step of it. But then if you're trying to rapidly pick up speed, then you get 2 steps of force. So it's called game speed 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just, do you explode one and you get 2 steps of force in? Because if you don't get 2 steps of force in, you've eliminated your acceleration phase. But if you can feel 2 steps of force, not running, but 2 steps of pushing off that ground before you run, magically, you're in your game speed zone. What I mean by that, if I just use some 3 steps of form and don't even hit the gas with it, I'm in my magical 14 to 18 miles an hour zone on the field of play. And that's the same. You don't go to 19, 20, 21 miles an hour on a basketball court. You try to get to 14 to 18, but this is where game speed comes in. And it's more of a, Les Spellman calls it a art and not science. He's like, speed is science. It's simple. Your stuff's an art. Like, it's like, how are you painting your picture? But
I agree.
It's like game speed is like explode and create some force. And then our 3-step speed can be 5 steps. It can be 6 steps. But that's when we're moving, but we're not sprinting. And that's game speed. Move at 14 to 18 miles an hour, but don't feel like you're running. For an elite athlete, maybe a little slower, okay? Now, I'm moving at 14 to 18. The ball goes in the air. I got to get somewhere. Now I hit track mechanics and go 19, 20, 21. That's when I use track mechanics, when I want to go over 18.
You're using context. So, Tony Holler, for our friends listening, if you just Google feed the cats, he basically talks about track coaches overrun their athletes and make them weak and slow. And you talk about game speed, which is the ability you talk a lot about to create separation, like how fast. So it's not just, so if we just copy track, but we're training basketball players and football football athletes, we've lost game speed application for sport, essentially.
And I just tweeted something out today about Jamal Lewis, like back in mechanics for
Who's
a body
Jamal
like
Lewis?
Jamal Lewis.
I was looking at
running back Jamal Lewis. So running back Jamal Lewis of the Ravens, back in the day, 2,000 yards, 10,000 yards in the season, NFL MVP, Super Bowl champ, NFL comeback player of the year, like just Hall of Fame nominated, right? He was 240 pounds. He had quick feet. He was already powerful. So applying the feed the cats approach of back end speed and max velocity to him to break long runs was exactly what that body needed. But that's not for everyone. That like Mark Ingram, who we started with after Jamal, we had to build up that max V first. But then it's like, okay, you've got that down. You can get to 21 to 22 miles an hour on the field. And this is where me and Tony Holler differ. And neither of us are wrong. If a track athlete can get 21 to 22 on the track, keep training max V, because getting to 22.5 is going to help, right? But if I've got to spend a lot of time on a Mark Ingram type or a basketball player to try to raise that ceiling from 21.8 miles an hour to 22.5, if I've got to spend a lot of time on that when I have a lot of buckets I got to fill, I don't think that max bucket should be filled anymore.
Yeah.
And that's just where I differ a little bit. And now track guys are going to come back to me, and I understand it. They're going to say, no, the max reserve effect, Tony. If you keep pushing that max speed up, then they'll be able to run smoother, slower. And I'm like, I agree, but I can get to that same speed without ever thinking of a max D mechanic. So why touch it?
And also,
like, I don't
time available to train the person.
Yes.
I like what you're saying with the buckets. You know, Mike Boyle started using that phrase, like, what bucket are you
I wonder
filling?
who started that. I like Mike. I never knew that. It's just like
I don't know who started
and I
it.
like it.
You're right. I don't know who started it. But that just makes, to me, it's using logic. And I think I'm going to sound like a jerk here, but sometimes coaches, I don't even know our field or industry, whatever phrase I want to use, sometimes they don't use logic. They want to just, blanket approach everything, when sometimes you just got to use logic when looking at the athlete, what you're going to apply.
So agreed. And like, it's not one size fits all, as you know. And again, I keep going back to this clinic May 21st. That's why I'm trying to get like the king of track, Tony Holler, the king of acceleration profiling, Les. I guess people are like, oh, well, now all you're talking about is game speed and agility, and you don't think speed matters. No, screw that. Speed matters. Like, I'm glad we just set the combine on fire. Like, I know that speed matters. I know how to do it.
Yeah, why would people say to you that speed? See, it's like, because
Yeah, but I just had these guys go run 4.2. You know what's going to happen when they come back and train me for the combine? I'm going to say, not going to do speed training anymore. Now, a track coach may say, no, keep getting faster because you're going to get better. I'm saying, no, you're in the top 0.1% of any player that's ever touched that football field. I would rather you fall to the top 0.3% of your speed and open up Pandora's box for you to stay on that field. Because I started listening to Darrell Revis, Anquan Bold, and Chris. I started listening to them. Like, what makes you guys you on that field? And this is where they blew my mind. It was 5 years ago. It was Darrell Revis's last year in the NFL. I worked with him only 1 year.
Where did he go? He was with the Jets then? I remember.
He was with the Jets. He still was due $8 million with the Jets. They owed him the money.
He was a safety.
He was just waiting to get picked up in week 10 or 11, and he was waiting, and he got picked up by the Chiefs. And it was, so it was like, had to run it, hopefully a Super Bowl. But he trained with us all spring and summer and just mixed in with the group. And Darrell Revis is like all-decade DB. And I'm working with him, and I'm like, man, he's doing that wrong. I got to tell him. And I kept fixing him. And
what was he doing wrong? What do you think he felt he was doing wrong?
He would like, we have 3 different ways we come out of a break as a DB, where we will sit on it like a receiver and jab out. We'll sit on it like a basketball player and cross out, or we'll miss both of those and spin out. Call that fast feet replace. And the spin out is the last one we want to do, but it's the one that's practiced the most because it looks the quickest. Okay. So with Revis, I was trying to have him perfect the first one, and he was doing it wrong. And then I explained why we wanted to do it like that. He's like, I get it. Keep working with me. Like, that's why I'm here. But he always just fit into the group. But where we would go for, let's see how far we can step in 5 yards and how fast we can get in 5 yards, I'd always put receivers down, and they would always like cover 4.5, almost 5 yards in 3 steps, because they're so programmed. They're longer, leaner, and they're so programmed to know where they're going. They're got better speed when they want to go. A DB, you put in that same position, let's go 5 yards. They take like 4 steps because they're used to getting their feet down quicker, always react. It's amazing to watch. So I'd always tell, like, hey, we're working on explosion speed to get out. Let receivers go first. DBs match their steps. Now, if we work on fast feet replace drills, getting our feet down quick, DBs go first. Receivers match their steps. Now you're taking who's good at what and trying to get them both to be good at it. But Revis would take 3 steps longer than any receiver we had. And we had studs in there. And I was like, you know what? That's why he's Revis. He does, like, when he decides to go, he's covering space. Okay? Like, you could see it. So then when he was going on workouts, I was like, Revis, like, you can't tell you're running fast when you move because you're gliding and covering so much space. When you start doing these position drills on air, not guarding someone, on air, you got to look like more moves. You honestly got to look like an Instagram dancer, I call it. You got to look like you're moving fast because you're so controlled. And then this is what blew my mind is it was just me, Anquan Bolden just retired, and Revis all fall. And that's when I started listening to them go at each other. They're both competitive. They're both like the nicest guys in the world, and they're both bullies that never want to lose. They're awesome. And I just listened to them. And we do a drill, and I'd listen to why Anquan likes that drill, why Revis likes that drill, who's manipulating what. And Anquan said, Tony, all I'm trying to do when I run a route is get Revis to chase me. Once when he feels like he has to run to chase me, I win. And Revis says, Tony, all I'm trying to do is play basketball as long as I can guard Anquan. Because if he has to run and feel like he's running to make me run against him, he loses and can't change direction. And I said, hold on a second. You guys are both telling me you guys are outside. You're the wide receiver and DB on that football field. And you're both telling me whoever runs and sprints first loses. They said, exactly.
Why?
I said,
I'm lost.
O-S-H-I-T.
Yeah, why do they? I don't know. So I don't understand.
Because if Anquan Bolden has to run his route too fast to threaten Revis, he can't change directions, Chris.
Oh, this is where you came up with the get too fast.
The whole web. Yeah,
and
then
the
Revis is like, and it's like, it's a game of cat and mouse on who's moving around that field in control and can attack better when they want to. And that's not by out of control sprinting.
So did you say we got to work on more deceleration, change of direction, or did you take like, let me ask you this question also, Tony.
Yeah.
I don't know who does the strength work. Does Matt do it? Or did you guys say, let's do eccentric box squats to improve your deceleration? Because if I keep letting you run so fast, you could like destroy the wheels on the car essentially. Like,
yes, I use the wheels on the car all the time. You're dead on. Like for combine, we're strength, power, and just go. You know, we're sequencing, but like, so we do legs and speed on Monday, Thursday together because they have to sequence them together. You know, and once when you're not hitting bar speeds or miles per hour on the ground, that means you're done that day. Okay, because now you're just going to get slower. And we literally, that's combine speed.
Charlie Francis approach. He stops when he sees them about to slow down.
Yeah. So all season approach is let's do some running on Monday. And then let's learn how to control that running from running forward because everybody has to do that. Okay. Like what I mean, control running. Run, go 45 one way, run, roll 90, sit to 91, come back down inside. Like, so we got to do all that Monday. Right. And then we have to save your legs for Tuesday. And we're going to crush your upper body Monday. So then Tuesday, we script their legs now together with their agility work, just like you said, because that's what's important. So like, it's like eccentric foci. I mean, simple stuff. Front lunge and push back for deceleration. Crossover sleds to work on inside pushes. You know, like we do a lot of leg training that helps their agility on Tuesday in the off season. Give them a rest day Wednesday, and then Thursday go back to speed and full body. They're not as peaked ready to train speed on Thursday as they would be if they were on the combine schedule, but getting that last 1/10 of a second off of them isn't the goal. It's getting them to get one step ahead of everyone before they run is the goal. And that's what people don't understand. And people put it out there and they still don't understand it. They're like, the difference of a 4.60 and a 4.48.12 is really big when you write it down on a piece of paper. The difference of them running in a straight line from 4.5 seconds is about 0.8 yards. Okay. 0.2 of a second is 1.6 yards. Okay. 1/10 of a second, 0.12 is about 0.8 yards. So think about that.
1/10 of a second is what? 0.8 yards? So
about 0.8 to 0.9.
Yeah,
like 0.2 of a second is 1.6 yards. So if you line up a 4.4 and a 4.6 and they both run and take off at the same time, the 4.4 is going to get the 4.4 will get to the 40. The 4.6 will be at the 38.4 yard. Okay. Now that is separation. I get it, but they're running in a straight line out of control with nothing interrupted in their underwear.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's a lot easier is if you change directions better, you get an immediate 1.6 yards of separation. Immediately. So I can train an off-season athlete for 8 straight weeks to get that 1.6 yards of separation after running straight for 5 seconds, 4.5, 5 seconds. Or I can teach him 100 different ways to get that same step immediately. So, and that's when we change our off-season training. So like Denzel Ward is the highest paid DB in the history of the NFL. Love it. Because he started with us 2 years ago, and this was the goal for him. I said, you're fast. You run a 4.3. Yes, I do. I don't care. We're not doing speed training with you. Why? We're going to make you cover. We're going to get you to start first. Okay. He bought in. Now, he still didn't understand it. We had to do a plethora of tests on him, proving to him why speed could not help him on that field. Sounds crazy. It's just because we believe in speed, but why speed, once when he's 4.3, can't help him on that field. I took a white 4.7 tight end, and I had him line up at the 1 yard line in a split stance. I put Denzel at the goal line in a split stance, right? And I said, Denzel, this was his first year. I said, he's going to take off. He's got 1 yard of separation on him. When do you close that space? Denzel looks and he says about 7 yards. This is a small, fast defensive back against an NFL tight end who's barely starting. And I love the kid, but he's not like Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce's actually slower than this guy, which proves the even point worse. I said, Mark Ingram, Anquan Bolden, anybody else in here? Yeah. When does Denzel catch this guy? Go stand. They go stand 30 yards down the field. 30 yards. Denzel looks at us like we're tricking him. Denzel, I'm not tricking you. You can't catch him. I can catch him. You can't catch him. Okay. All right. Take off and tell Denzel to chase you. Boom. Denzel starts closing in on him at about 15 yards and closes that space at 28 yards. Denzel comes walking back, shakes his head. You know what Denzel does? He's got immediate buy-in now. And you know what he does? He brings his little brother from Cincinnati for his spring break and says, do the test on him. He doesn't believe it. Because you don't believe it. So you have to understand that speed, if you get ahead and you use speed, you don't get caught. 100% agreed. So don't quit training speed. But if you're not ahead and you try to use speed to win, you lose it all the time.
Wait, say it again. If you're not ahead?
If you're not ahead and you try to use speed, it takes 30 yards to close in on one step that you missed. You know, and that's if a 4.3 is chasing a 4.7. 4.3s and 4.5s are grouped together. 4.5s and 4.7s are grouped together. 4.8s and above go fight on the offensive line and defensive line.
Yeah.
Like you're never chasing someone that's not normally 2/10 of your speed. That's a norm.
Tony, in the combine, you know, the coaches that are watching and they probably put more premium on the 40, but probably they should put more premium on the 3-cone drill, right?
I think so, but then the 3-cone drill is just absolutely playing steps.
Yeah.
You know it's coming.
You're right. Yeah. So it's like
the combine is the stupidest thing that's ever done to man. So like what we got to do is just say, look, they're trying to get what norm you're at. They're trying to see what your genetic potential is.
Yes.
And then they hope they coach you up. But like the Rams, so I know Sean McVay, their head draft guy, guru, amazing guy, was a former general manager. I can't say his name. But he knows this stuff. Me and him talk about it for years. It's like Tony, he's like, what's your kid gonna run? I'm like, I don't know. I probably got a fabricated 4.53 out of. What do you run when he started? I said he honestly ran like 4.68 when he started. I haven't improved him enough. He's like, got good game speed then. If he showed up with you at 4.68 and you're trying to train him and he can only get 4.53, yeah. I said, I have some guys that went 4.75 to 4.41, but it's fabricated. I said, this kid's legit. Like, I like him. And then we talk about Cooper Kupp. Tony, like, we know Cooper Kupp runs 20, 21, but like, that's our threshold. We want to see if our guys can get to 20, 21 miles an hour. But Cooper Kupp can get there quicker than anyone and change directions quicker than everybody. Deal. Like, that's why, like, that's the number one receiver in the NFL right now. Can't break 4.6. Chris Carter couldn't break 4. Like, I started looking at the top receivers of the NFL that I've ever trained, and it was Randy Moss, Chris Carter, Larry Fitzgerald through Bill Welly, Anquan Bolden, and Hines Ward. I trained all 5 of them, like, extensively longer than their career. 5 of them have like they're in the top 15 for catches in the NFL. Only 1 out of the 5 is a genetic freak. They're all genetic freaks to be in the NFL, but only one's Randy Moss. And Randy Moss learned from the best like Chris Carter and worked his tail off not to just be a genetic freak. People don't think Randy Moss worked. That joker worked. And he worked. And so nobody that's catching a lot of balls in the NFL is a Blazer. Randy Moss and Isaac Bruce. Go look at the top 15. Those are the only 2 guys that can be legit 4.4s or under.
So what are you saying?
So,
they create separation better than
those receivers don't want to run away from the DB. They want the DB close to them because they know when that DB is close to them, when they change directions, they get immediate separation. If that DB is not close to them, let's say he's 1.5 yards underneath, you want to know what that DB is taking away without knowing it? All the underneath routes. I can't separate back inside. The DBs, I beat them inside. So, like, it's an ultimate game of cat or mouse where space means nothing until you want to create or close it.
You've got to be, it's crazy, say fast enough but that's like freak speed. But I think if we were like concluding this in a part 1 conversation, it's like, if you're all gas and no brakes, you've got speed, but you're not athletic. You don't have game speed. Game speed is the ability to move. And I would say this is applicable. When we stay in, I think it's Coconut Creek. Is that the town that's near Boca? It's near American. We stay at the hotel near American Top Team. I'd love to see
Coconut Creek.
Yeah, I'd love to see. The wrestling coach there is from Jersey, so I always stop in to see him. I'd love to see what the Shredmill can do for MMA fighters. I'd love to see this kind of training applied to them because it builds athleticism. And
the former Black Zillions who competed with ATT.
Yes.
They bought 2 Shredmills for their guys back in the day.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Like Anthony Rumble Johnson, Michael Johnson, or Scott Evans, like all of them loved it because we would use it for like drive days, just gassing out leg drive day. We'd put a band on it and crossover runs. Like it's like having a sled.
Yeah.
But one thing I have to say is I believe until a kid reaches his genetic potential, he's got to go through elite speed training. Like, so I'm not ever turning a kid off that because as you're growing and getting more powerful, that's when you got to increase your speed.
What's elite speed training? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, like the problem with doing elite speed training is you have to shut down so many of the other buckets to get them fast. Like, so when we do combine training, we're doing elite speed training, but we're shutting down a lot of other buckets they need to be good. You're
spending a lot of time sprinting.
Yeah. And a lot of time recovering and not wanting to get their legs tired with agility because agility is not what sells during that time.
Yeah.
But as a kid, and we're working with some Power 5 teams, 13 to 18, 18 to 22, you're not at your genetic potential yet. You know,
totally.
Like the best sprinters in the world are normally 25 to 28 years old, right? If you look at world records for sprinters. Yeah. So like, this is what we recommend. Every January, February, March, spike their genetic potential to get them fast. Like make that their focus. But now listen to this. If I take a kid that runs a 5.1 and train them for 12 weeks and take them 5.1 to 4.85, everyone can do that now. I don't think it's hard. But I did that from January to March, right? I spent time getting them from 5.10 to 4.85. Great. Now, if I train them another 3 weeks just the same way or still try to change up things, I can't take them from 4.85 to 4.50. Like that 5.10 to 4.85, that's his genetic potential of that engine, of that 14-year-old athlete, right? But now you've done it. Now you just tell them, look, I got you from 5.10 to 4.85 and you're 15. You know what you need to do now? What? You need to improve. And I did that in 3 months. Everyone can do that. I could keep training you for that, but you're not going to improve the same. Now all you need to do is improve 1/10 every year. What do you mean, coach? Because by your senior year, you'll be sub 4.55, and that's elite speed.
Yeah.
You know? Now you just got to improve 1/10 a year. Stay on the weights, keep doing the speed training, but start focusing on other things. Because basic genetic potential will get you 1/10 faster a year. I can't keep getting you 3/10 faster every time I train you for speed anymore. I've got you that genetic potential. Now, that's what I mean by never lay off the speed training, but you can't keep improving their speed at the same rate when you improve it. The only thing that's going to improve it is back to our bucket, strength to power. If I get you more powerful, your speed is probably going to improve. But that takes time and life.
That takes time. What next time we chat, maybe we could talk about like specifically training the high school athlete. Now,
I'd love to do that.
Yeah, what's going to be your topic at the May 21st seminar?
So we're going to have Tony Holler lead it off with Feed the Cats, track for football. Just talk what you know about and why it works so well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's going to be pretty cool because we just came up with a new idea today where the first 10 minutes, he's got to bring up some pockets that I may not agree about, and I get to ask him questions.
Yeah.
And it's not confrontational. So these coaches that come can hear professionals kindly disagree and like each other, which is so unheard of in this Twitter world,
Right. Or you're just trying to like dig, you're trying to
learn.
peel away. Yeah.
I'm just learning. Like I learned so much when I talked to him. And then next up will be Les Spellman, where it's like, if you say Tony Holler's Feed the Cats and a Maxi focus, which is not what he's pigeonholed into, it's what people think he's pigeonholed into, then Les Spellman is like, oh, I'm a pro acceleration guy and acceleration profiling. He's like king of acceleration. Doesn't mean he doesn't like Maxi or agility, but he's king of acceleration. So he's going to talk about acceleration profiling. And then I'm going to come in and try to talk about, all right, all that stuff is great. So I'm not going to hammer on it because I have followed them without even knowing I followed their approach. And we talk about it. I'm going to start talking about what speed do you actually need in a game and how do you change directions differently with that speed, right? And then Joey G, hopefully, like he's batting cleanup. And he asked why he's batting cleanup. I was like, because your program design has to be so on point. Tony Holler knows his stuff. Les Spellman knows his stuff. I know my stuff. But like, how do you pull it all together in a team format of training people?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Joey G is hopefully going to, I told Joey, like, don't come prepared with slides. Like, you're good enough. You don't need slides. Come and listen to questions. Come and listen to, and then start just, this is how I'd lay it out.
Yeah. I followed him for a while.
Coaches want to hear.
He's
great.
I followed him. I know he was in Colorado. He was somewhere else before that. So I've been kind of watching his own training and then watching his evolution of applying. As he's moved around, I've noticed more jumping, more sprinting. So I've watched his training evolve, coaching evolve.
That's what I like to call him, and he doesn't need me to say it to get the credibility. But like I when he got the job at FAU, I like wanted to go meet him, and he was nice enough to like open his doors and sit down and meet with me. And after like one conversation with him, I was like, you don't need me to tell you this. You are the evolution of sports training. You're it. Like you are the evolution, like the guy that's, I don't know how old he is. He's probably in his young 30s.
Yeah.
Maybe young. Upper 20s, young 30s, but he's the evolution. He's gone and learned from the old school strength to power guys that were just learning speed. He's learned the speed. Then he's learning all the stuff. He is he's learning how to, not saying learning like he doesn't know, how to apply data, what data to look at. Yeah. He's not closed-minded. He's the evolution of a sports trainer. Of what strength and conditioning is. It's not quote unquote strength and conditioning anymore.
I hate that word. That word to me puts us in such a box, like strength conditioning. I like the phrase sports performance because that's an umbrella phrase and there's a lot of buckets under that umbrella. And you're right. I've watched Joey in the beginning. It was cleans and squats. And then you started seeing jumping, sprinting. Then you start seeing him utilizing data and software. Yeah. And that's right. That's what you need to do as a coach. Even I had a conversation with a guy at the high school level, Brian Bott. He was at Wisconsin, late 90s. I think he spent like 12, 13 years there with football. And they do a lot of testing at the high school level. And it was really cool to see him utilizing like this jump mat. He has like a lot of tests for different buckets. And I was like, I gotta get better. That's why I like
some of these a lot of the high school coaches that when I say consult, like I don't tell them what to do. I just say consult because we consult each other. But a lot of the high school coaches I consult with are, I hope some people don't get mad at me, are better than the NFL coaches I consult with. The high school coaches have an open mind and are trying to learn from everyone and apply it to their situation. Whereas the NFL coaches I consult with are like, it's hard. It's like they're almost taking it as you're telling them they're doing something wrong. When you're like, look, you asked me for my point of view and I told you, and this is the data that proves it. I'm not telling you ever did it wrong. I'm just showing you something different. And a high school coach loves it. The pro coaches don't. I think Power 5 is making a better change than NFL coaches, even though NFL is. But like in the high school sector, some of the coaches I've talked to are like the best strength and conditioning coaches I've ever seen. Yeah, I'm like, you guys are doing more stuff with your high school team than we do with our combine athletes. Like I promise you, if you got your hands on my combine athletes and I gave you 8 weeks with them, you could do it.
I'm impressed too. Like, I work with the NHS SCA.
Oh, I love that group.
I know. And, I've never been in such a group where the sharing is nonstop. It's amazing. Yes. And you're right. Like I also think at the high school level, we don't feel the stress of, man, if we implement XYZ for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it goes bad, like, forget it. We're not winning the championship. My job's on the line. So much stuff works at this high school level. So it just gives us this freedom.
That's why they're great, because the football, the higher up they go, they're more worried about their job security. You're exactly right. And they're scared to try new things for the fear of them not working. Whereas a high school coach will be like, I've seen this work somewhere. Some data improved it. I'm going to try this and see how they like it.
That's how I operate.
But it's awesome. That's why I like when you said, well, you've just been in the gym training. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to get out there a little more. But yeah, I've just been trying to listen to pro athletes and look at data when I can and just listen to them and try to make up some stuff that sticks. And then every combine, we're like, all right, can we get our guys fast? Well, we did that. And then every off season, we're like, can we make our guys better and prevent injuries? And we try to do that,
And that's what, I like it. That's what I love about when I come across a coach. You're like, man, I'm just trying to get better, because you love the guys, you love the people you train. And so it does that. Now, I want to, give people, places to follow you and learn from you. So on Twitter, XPE_sports. On Instagram, I think it's the same, maybe no underscore. I can't remember. They could
no underscore on Instagram. Yeah. And just for everybody listening, I pretty much personally control my Twitter account, XPEs. Because I like that. I feel like that's like more conversing with coaches.
Yes, it is.
Instagram is like more showy. I don't control that one as much, even though, some of the content's on.
Yes. You're playing. It's kind of trying to get. It's the unfortunate.
Yeah, Instagram's the game. Twitter, I like. I finally found my calling on Twitter. I like sharing stuff with people on Twitter.
And you're able to engage. And also, I think on your website, you guys have some modules where it's like education that coaches can.
Yeah, we have an online program that we came out with. Actually, too much. I mean, it's like 14 hours and 250 drills for $99.
It's like different.
It's like
modules.
Overkill.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, how do you learn how to sprint and use some agility to counterbalance that sprinting? So while you're learning sprinting, you're also learning how to counterbalance that sprinting, I call it. And it's level 1, 2, 3. And by the time you get to level 4, you should be able to, from sprinting forward, bang out every angle like a wide receiver does. Because, and then levels 5 through 9 we're releasing this summer. And that's like, okay, like I keep going back to football players, because linebackers are great at something, DBs are great at something, wide receivers are great at something, offensive line are great at something, running backs are great at something. They're all great at like one thing great, but they can't do what the other positions do. But when you deal with a soccer or lacrosse player or basketball player, they're both playing offense defense. Like every other sport has to play offense defense.
Oh, you're right.
But we try to learn from NFL players, like, what do you do better than anybody else in the world? Teach me. Okay, now let's teach that to all athletes.
Interesting.
DB, what do you do better than anybody in the world? I shadow and I backpedal and I go back. Teach me. So we use our football players for our curriculum, and that will be our first release levels 1 through 4, 5 through 9. But then after that, we've got some other pro athletes that are going to be on it from other sports of like, this is how I do that drill, but it applies to my sport.
Very cool. We spoke about the Shredmill quite a bit. And I saw somewhere like a post, it was like, listen, you guys are fundraising for shirts, fundraising for jerseys. You should fundraise for a Shredmill. So when they read, there's like a contact for that. Who do they end up talking to ask questions about the Shredmill? They talk to you, or who do they talk to?
They talk to me now, but we finally got a team together where we're getting enough money invested where we're going to make 50 to 75 that we're selling this summer. 4 different Power Fives are getting them running a pilot program, and we're developing software and app around it. So it's finally like, normally what I do is I just blast on social media, hey, I'm about to make 8 Shredmills. First 8 people get their money in, you'll have it in 2 or 3 months. You know, that's not a way to run a business. You know,
it's so you're kind of bootstrap in the beginning. You're doing everything, as we said. We didn't really get a chance to talk about kind of the full-blown partnership you have with Matt Gates, but it sounds like this is how things took off when you started bringing, developing a team, and you're like, hey man, I'm great at coaching. That's where I'm going. Matt is great at XYZ. He's going in that direction, and after 25 plus years of coaching.
We're in, I was 3 years at Chris Carter's and 20 years as XPE. It's crazy. I never thought I'd make it 20 years as a business owner. So
here's a final question for you. This is a tricky, tough question for coaches like us who coach. What's the end game? Some coaches, like Kurt Hester says, I want to be the oldest active collegiate strength and conditioning coach. I love me some Kurt Hester, but that's not my goal. Kurt's amazing. Kurt's awesome. I love that guy. I hope you follow. I do a lot of alligator jokes on him.
I've known him for 20 years because he was like the combine trainer for D1 Sports when I was starting up XPE. And again, like, it's not a battle. It's like we talked and knew each other. Like, I followed him forever.
Right. There was a video I posted of like some kids in another country, like playing with an alligator. So I was like week 1 of internship under Kurt Hester.
Yeah. He's awesome.
So the question is, or the concern is for strength coaches is, especially in college, Tony, is they don't retire as a coach, meaning they get released. You and I are private sector guys. So can XPE be bought by, what do you even have an end goal for this?
We have a couple companies approaching us now to buy out, but there's the value in it is our marketability for them selling other products. There's not that much money in sports training. You can make a nice living, but you're not going to get real rich at it. So everybody thinks I make a lot more money than I do because they see the athletes I train, but I mean, they don't pay us that much more than anybody else. But my end game is to really get like more Shredmills in high schools and colleges and private, and like just teach them that speed training is easy, and go on the more education front of what I think is coming next, which is how to make better athletes. Like, what are proven ways to make better athletes? And speed is an aspect, but I think it's overdone right now because people have finally gotten a hold of how to do it. But they're now relying on track coaches. And I'm telling them, well, if that's all you wanted to rely on 20 years ago, you guys should have all hired track coaches. So I think there needs to be a bridge between speed and agility and strength, like the buckets, like teaching people what Joey G. I don't know what Joey G knows. I try to pick his brain, but like teaching people what Joey G knows. What works, what doesn't. Like I want it to be a more holistic thing that I leave for this strength and conditioning profession, because I want to be a soccer dad much sooner than I want to die or be a 70-year-old strength coach. But I would love to still help people in it. I want to be a soccer dad. I love my little 5-year-old.
Yep. Listen, I'm with you. I don't like missing my kids' sporting events.
Yeah. I try not to miss a bus stop, but it's hard.
Yes. But this has been awesome. The website is xpesports.com. Yep. If they just Google XPE Sports, go on YouTube, start going down the rabbit hole. I'll be interested to find out who fundraises and, gets the first Shredmill that's a listener of the Strong Life podcast. It'll be
Oh,
interesting
that's awesome.
to hear
Yeah.
who makes it happen. And I've got a lot to learn from you. And so I've got to figure out which direction am I going down the the modules. This year at my high school, hopefully we get new flooring, and then I create a parent club, just like the football team has their booster club. I keep saying
Yep.
I need to build a parent club, so I'm not waiting for the school to approve a new barbell or a new this. I just want to say
that's a great idea.
Yeah, I need.
I've seen so many people do like the father-daughter workouts and stuff like that.
Yes,
like
there's a
parent,
lot
what
of
a great
ways.
idea to have the parents come in there and work out sometimes with the kids, and like because you got the facility. Schools facilities are amazing.
Not my school facility is a little bit like ghetto. I've painted it
that's
up
all right.
and fit. I know, like you said, you don't need fancy, but what you do need is parent involvement versus waiting on a school to approve things. So, everybody listening, again, big thanks to Coach Tony Villani. Just Google XPE Sports, go down the rabbit hole. I've already got the wheels turning of like parent club, raising money, get a shred mill. And I'm kind of, after seeing that one coach with 2 shred mills in his garage, I'm like, oh, damn.
He's got a little institute in there in his little garage. It's awesome.
It's impressive. So do you have anything you want to close out with, Tony? Anything you want to say before we shut it down?
I just appreciate you a lot. This is, I think, like my 3rd podcast. I love doing it.
Nice.
So if people just contact me and email me, Villani at xpesports.com. It may take me a little bit of time to get back, but I have an email scripted that has tons of free content about that rabbit hole. It's probably 2 hours of free content.
I actually emailed your that's how I reached out, and I asked about it. They never sent me any of that stuff, but I need to pay for it.
Email it to me.
No, listen,
Villani,
if I get everything free, I feel like I got to pay for it. It'll make me get into it.
No. That's what I tell people in the email. Look, this is enough to where you don't have to buy the $99 thing, I promise. But if you buy the $99 thing, you get about another 10 hours of stuff.
$99 is nothing. I'll link that up in the show notes.
So, if people email me and say, "Hey, please send me that free content email," it's like 8 chapters of 20 drills in each chapter. It's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Take them through everything.
Very good. You are the man. I'm going to shut it down, but hang on a minute before we say goodbye. Thanks to everybody for listening. Give Tony a follow. And like I said, if you Google XPE Sports, you can follow them on the different social media channels. And the important thing I'd say is it's not copy. It's learn and decipher how you could apply to its context, to your specific situation, who you're training. And here I am trying to get better. So Strong Life Podcast, we're out of here. We'll talk to everybody soon.